Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, everybody. How is everyone doing tonight? Hopefully, you guys are having a great day. I feel like this banner in front of me is like so big. But we do have, I don't want to like take too much time like worrying about my banner right now, but we do have a verdict that's being read in the Sarah Boone trial. So I want to get right over to court TV because they were bringing her in and all the things. And I was like, I don't even have enough time to do like my intro, my hello, hello, hellos. But I will tell you guys hello right after we hear this. I'm pretty sure they're bringing her in. We were a little behind, just a couple minutes. Just a couple of minutes.
Television monitor. So
let's see.
Those are the two different stories of this trial, right? One is the.
Nope. I think we're still waiting. I think it was just Vinny talking.
View with a Killer, okay. Sunday, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
One of my
I'm just going to favorite stuff. We're still waiting. Okay. But the verdict is in. So that's what I was like, oh, I better jump up on there really quick because I didn't want to go without seeing this. But I have it on Court TV Live. And it's also streaming through Court TV, I believe. So I'll just stream it through Court TV like we normally do. But I will keep up the live tab just in case, because they did say for like commentary or if you wanted to hear more, afterwards to listen to Vinny Politan, I guess, after the trial. So that's why he's there, I guess, right now, this late. Well, he usually is there pretty late. But they did say today that they were going to give the jurors until 10 o'clock tonight. And then if they didn't reach a verdict by 10 o'clock, they were going to come back and come back tomorrow. Wait, what's tomorrow? Saturday? Come back on Monday. And, we'd have to wait over the weekend. And I was not thinking we would have to wait over the weekend at all. I figured that the verdict would be in pretty quick. So we'll go over this verdict, then we'll go over Leilani Simon. And I had this all kind of different. Like, I had it all different. And I'm one of those people, I crunch at the last minute. So if I'm I'm off tonight, it's because I didn't have a lot of time to do my notes. I usually crunch them on at like last minute. I do all my videos and all of that like throughout the night and like listen to them. And then I do my notes last. So wow. Yeah. Verdict's in. Yep. So while we're waiting, let me say hi to some people in the chat, and people are going to be coming in and be like, you're on early. So hopefully everyone has their reminders on and everyone will kind of come in. But hey, Catherine, Mary Beth's here. Cheryl is here. Ladybug. Oh, here we go. There's Judge Kranick. Okay, I have the volume on, so hopefully he turns his volume on. Wouldn't that be something?
Second.
There he is. Okay.
We are on
It's good to see everybody. If you guys don't mind just taking a quick minute, hit that like button. Get some people to come in. Hey,
Juno. 2020 CF 2603, State of Florida versus Sarah Boone. State.
What do you guys think?
Yes, sure. On behalf of the state, William J. for the state.
Defense.
James Owens for Ms. Boone.
I think they might even do a manslaughter.
Okay. All right. Ms. Boone is seated at counsel's table, wearing the same clothing from this morning. Yes, Mr. Beck.
Judge, they've got her in chains and they've got her in the ankle handcuffs, so she can't go anywhere. I'm just asking. We would like to rise during the jury coming in. I'm asking if there's any way we can take off the handcuffs and the waist chain so that the jury wouldn't see it in case there's.
He's trying to get her to so she can run.
Or, there's an issue, which sometimes happens, but that's my position.
Okay. I've been advised by the sheriff that during the reading of the verdict, due to Miss Boone's status as an inmate, their leg irons and the cuffs are to be attached.
She's going to stay seated.
That's fine.
Mr. Beck's going to stay seated.
I would ask for all to remain seated, and could you remind everybody in the gallery that there should be no emotional reactions?
I was just about to address that, sir. Thank you very much. All right, members of the jury, my understanding, or members of the gallery, good evening. My understanding is that the jury in this matter has reached a verdict. I don't know what it's going to be until it's read. if you are unable to contain yourself emotionally,
He always does.
and
So
you're going to react in any way.
That's just
be
what
it
they do.
in joy or in
So she's not sneaking
sadness.
anything in.
I'm going to ask you politely to excuse yourself at this time. There cannot be any emotional outbursts when the verdict is read. Does everybody understand that?
I mean, that's
See
hard to
everybody
ask.
nodding their heads. Okay.
That's hard to ask.
State, are we ready to bring in our jury?
Yes, sir.
My heart
Defense,
is
are we ready to bring in our jury?
Yes, Judge.
All right,
Heartened.
let's go ahead and bring in our jury. Everyone will remain seated.
Let me take my blood pressure. That's like in high school, man. That's what that reminds me of. It's an exciting day, isn't it? Yes. I think that yes, they're leaving them on. Like if she was like going to be, I don't know. I feel like we're getting our answer, but they did put on there that they can do manslaughter or an even smaller charge than that. I was reading about that earlier tonight. So she can still get a manslaughter charge even though she gave up that deal. I'm like, I don't get that. Are they just trying to get her out of their hair? She may actually have tortured a judge enough to where they're just like, just whatever we can get her for.
State, do
Whatever
you
we can get.
recognize our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury? All right, members of the jury, you may be seated. Thank you.
We're all
Members
supposed
of
to
our
be
jury,
seated.
good evening. I understand that you've come to a verdict in this case.
Yes.
If you could please hand the verdict form to the deputy, please. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the Ninth Judicial Circuit in Orange County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 2603, the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 25th day of October.
Murder in the second.
The form has been signed by the four persons.
Madam Clerk, please poll our jury.
Juror seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 2, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 3, is this your true and
Yes, it
correct
is.
verdict? Juror seat number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I
Makes
want
me
to
wanna
thank
throw
you
up.
for your time, your sacrifice, and your attention in this matter. I know that we spent almost 2 weeks together and it was not taken lightly, and I really appreciate the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put into this case. I want to advise you now of your final instruction. Members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and your consideration in this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's
We
work.
finally got her.
Although you are at liberty to speak to anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your
She's going to the
deliberations may
big
come
prison.
from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere.
Nah, you made the right
It will be up
decision.
to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that, members of the jury, again, I thank you for your service. I'm going to ask you return to the deliberation room. I'll be back there shortly with your jury certificates, and thank you.
You don't need to talk, Owen. You're done. Your job's done. Wow. I thought maybe they lowered to manslaughter, but I think it's because the suitcase where they pointed at the closing arguments. pointed how he was in the
Ms.
fetal
Boone, the
position.
jury has spoken in this matter and has found you guilty of murder in the second degree. The court adjudicates you guilty of murder in the second degree.
Are they sentenced her?
As this is your first felony conviction, you are entitled to a pre-sentencing investigation by the Department of Corrections. Mr. Owens, are you seeking that in this case?
Yeah.
Okay. State, I will order the Department of Corrections to prepare the pre-sentencing investigation. State, for the purposes of sentencing, do you anticipate eliciting any testimony from, be it the victim's family?
2 or 3 victim impact statements, sir.
Okay. Mr. Owens, do you plan on presenting any evidence during the course of the sentencing hearing, sir?
Probably some testimony from Dr. Harper.
Okay. All right. How long do you think, State, that you would need?
You mean timing wise, or are we thinking?
A quantum of time, sir. Yeah, well, normally it takes about 30 days or so. I'm confirming with Anita as to availability. I just want to know from your side of the ledger, how much time? Okay, 15 minutes.
Huh.
How much time do you think you're going to need to produce
minutes.
anything from your side of the ledger, sir? Mr. Owens?
15 days.
I'd say 30 minutes,
Okay.
30 to 45.
So if we set this for an hour, that would be sufficient.
Parties agree. Okay. State agrees.
Is that sufficient, Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Okay, all right, give me a moment.
He's trying to, wow. Kranick is trying to have this done by the weekend. Wow. So they did just find Sarah Boone guilty of the highest charge that was on the docket, the second degree murder of Jorge or George Torres. George, your voice was heard today, buddy. Your voice was heard. Like, I've been an emotional mess today, so I hope I don't cry, because that's just, it's a day of people getting justice. It is a day of people getting justice. Wow,
This is checking.
5
Just give us a
years.
moment.
Finally got her. Finally got her. I mean, she wasn't, she was in that jail forever and a day. I know, 2 guilty today.
We can set this matter for 1:30 in the afternoon
Oh,
for sentencing on December 2.
December 2nd.
State, is that acceptable? It's a Monday.
I just status hearing, but I'll make it work.
I can move it to later if necessary.
I'm co-counsel on it.
Okay, defense.
You want me to-
Yes, sir.
That's Monday, December 2 at 1:30.
Yes, sir.
I can be here.
Ma'am, you've been adjudicated guilty. I now remand you into the custody of the Orange County Jail pending sentencing on December 2 at 1:30.
Look at
State,
his
anything
family.
else we need to address?
Not from the state.
Defense. All right, thank you very much. We're off the record.
Woo, look at that. Guilty. Guilty, 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 guilty. Now, I had it somewhere. Maybe I did. Right here. Yeah. Okay. Because I had another article, or I had like articles and stuff I was going to show you guys before I thought the sentencing would be, or I'm sorry, not sentencing, but the verdict would be back. But I should have known. I mean, I should have known. What are they doing? Okay. I don't know if they're going to come back on. I don't think so. I mean, is Judge Kranick still up there, or did he peace out? Because I was on a different page. I think he peaced out. But I'm going to, man, I'm stunned. When stuff like this happens, when there's a closure to like a case, like with Leilani today, like I just sat there and needed to be in my own feelings for that. Because whenever you cover a case for so long, you know, like when there's like justice and there's that, and it's like almost like that ending. It's like bittersweet. It's bittersweet. I remember the first time when it happened with Kylie Rodney in that case, felt like I hit a brick wall. I stood there for like when the paperwork started coming back, like the autopsy reports and stuff, and the reports started coming back and saying that it was accidental. Like it made me feel like I had hit like a brick wall or something. Like I was just sitting there looking around, like couldn't talk, couldn't function. Oh, there's my lady too. Look, she's like, you just lay this here, honey. We get that later. I love this lady. I don't know who she is, but she's been with her the whole time. Roxanne, I am like that with Letitia Stalk. Letitia Stalk, I can't handle life with her. Like I can't even handle her. Like, not even a little bit. I can't listen to her voice. I can't watch anything about her. But it almost feels like, you know, after sentencing, justice will be served for George, and it is being served. Are they fingerprinting her? What are they doing? Like fingerprinting her, like right in front of, like right there? Because she has on white gloves. I don't know. There's no sound. It's just, yep. They sure is. Why are they fingerprinting her again? They already got her fingerprints. So are they taking her off? They're not going to cart her right off to prison tonight, are they? Are they just making sure they got the right person? I don't know, but that's scary. That's like I'm so glad that I could never, you know what I mean? No, she, I cannot believe she, I mean, I can't believe it's time. It's been time. George had to wait, and his family had to wait for almost 5 years. And look at that. Justice is walking out. There it goes, right there out the door. That's justice. You know? Oh, Phantom Growler, when Idaho 4 happens, I'll probably be on I'll be like, I don't even know. That'll be one for the books. But I mean, like a lot of these cases we follow just as much, you know, there just wasn't a lot of information, as much information like there was Idaho. Like Leilani Simon's case, we followed it, but a lot of the court proceedings weren't being broadcasted. They weren't letting cameras in. And so when they actually let cameras in for the trial, I was really surprised that, you know, Miss Tammy Stokes did that, Miss Judge Tammy Stokes. I think that she was an excellent judge. I think Judge Kranick, excellent judge. I like him. I liked him. Yeah, George finally got some justice, Juno. Yep. And now it's like, you know, yeah, Delphi's next. Yep. And I'm going to update you on some Delphi stuff also. You want to hear something it'll break the ice, I guess, the mood a little bit. It'll make you guys, it won't hurt you any. It was me that was crying. I went to the mall today. I'm in a mood. And I cried in the mall. Not even in my store when I had a store. Like when I had a store there, like I was crying there. They are closing down the store that I used to work at, the boutique that I used to work at, the boutique that I put together. And Vincent and I went by it today. We didn't know. And we saw it. And the home store is going out. And I lost it. Like all 16 of my like plus size mannequins, my curvy mannequins were like sitting there. And I was just like ugly crying. I'm a mess. And it was right after I heard the verdict for Leilani Simon. So I'm sure that's probably had a lot to do with it too. But I was like, man, I'm an emotional disaster. I was like, what's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Let's see here. Let's listen to this from George's family. So I was going to play this earlier for us, but I'll play it now. I will listen to we'll listen to this and we'll listen to a little bit of George's family and what they think, because I never really heard from his family. I think maybe once on News Nation, and then that was really it. So let's hear what he has to say. Thanks, Juno. Yeah, it was thanks, Maribeth. I think it was just because I put that store together. Like, that store forced me to drink one time. I got drunk. I was so mad at that store. And so I don't know. I put a lot into that store, like a lot. And it's been years since I haven't been there in a couple of years, but I always wanted to see him flourish. I was just in the store not too long ago, like a couple weeks ago. It was fine. There was nothing to miss. And then today there's boxes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Now it's like, I don't know if that's a win for me, because, you know, if you would have treated me better, you probably would have had your store still. Or I feel bad for him. I still feel bad for him, even though they weren't the greatest to us. But yeah, let's listen to Julia. Julie Grant, she has Jorge or George's family on there. I think he liked to be called George, and I've called him Jorge this whole time. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing something really awesome by pronouncing his name right.
We are hearing from two very special voices for the victim in the suitcase murder trial for George Torres. Prosecutors say that he was murdered by his longtime girlfriend, Sarah Boone, who had him trapped inside of a suitcase, beat him, and left him to die. The defense is saying that Sarah Boone was acting in self-defense. Now, George Torres' family is speaking out this morning, saying that he's being unfairly depicted as an abuser and that it was Sarah Boone who was the real aggressor. Now, since early in this case, we've seen evidence of Boone's problems with Torres' family.
To know what we're here, what we're investigating, and that they're going to think I killed him.
Why would they think that?
They always have said that. They've always have said that.
What have they
I
said?
told you, it's because I'm the blue-eyed white dragon.
Nope. It's not because you're the blue-eyed white dragon or whatever she just said. No, that's not what it is. They knew. Oh, I don't even know what it did. I think I skipped it. They knew who they were dealing with. They knew who you were. They saw right through you, you know?
Me over them.
I want to welcome in our special guests now. We have George Torres' oldest daughter, Ana Victoria Torres, with us. We also have Dolores Ortiz with us, who is George Torres' first wife. And she also brought with her this morning her youngest daughter, Destiny.
Okay, the oldest daughter looks just like him.
First of all, my heart goes out to all of you and for all of us here at Court TV. We are so sorry for your loss. Thank you for coming on the show. And I know that you really want to clear the air. And Ana Victoria, I know you've wanted to kind of be the family spokesperson. So I want to start with you, please. The way that your dad has been depicted as being an abuser in this trial, I know that it has upset you and you felt it's very unfair. Tell us why.
Oh, she's all muted.
Story, and unfortunately, we are the voices now, and the way the trial has gone and the way things have taken place have nobody has ever contacted us to hear our story. Or
look at his leg. That's his leg. That's his leg. Oh my, now I can really see the depth of how small he was. Oh my gosh.
Ask us questions in regards to our father, his character, or the relationship between him and Sarah Boone.
Tiny.
Me and my siblings actually spoke to our father that night.
So pretty.
And we have a lot of experiences with Miss Boone that do not speak to what the media is stating she is, a victim or a gentle individual. I'm sure she's loved over there at jail due to the fact that Sarah Boone is very, very calculated. She by no means is a kind and sweet, soft-spoken woman. She is very calculated, very devious, very conniving. My father was sheltered and berated. He was kept from us. He was the real victim in this situation. Unfortunately, again, as stated, he is not here to tell his story, but we are here to give his side the best we can from the view that we were able to see things.
Sure. Anna Victoria, in one of the videos that we've all seen, Sarah Boone told police that George's family didn't like her and that they referred to her as the blue-eyed white dragon. Would you talk about where that nickname came from, and if it's true that you all didn't like her, and in particular, why?
Sounds like a rug to me.
I can definitely answer that. As far as the nickname is concerned, that was created all through Sarah's little brain. Other than that, she was definitely correct as far as us not liking her, and she should have stated that she didn't like us either, because that is very much correct as well. She, like I stated, is very evil, and what she is acting out there on the stand and within that courtroom is baffling to me, because that is not the real Sarah Boone at all. But yeah, she was correct. We don't like her. We didn't like her. That will never change. Unfortunately, I do feel bad for her and I wish her the best. But what I do wish is that my father receives his justice and she gets the time that she deserves. And a slap on the wrist is not it.
She ain't gonna get
other than
slap
that.
on the wrist.
As far as a relationship with Sarah, one that was a good one, there wasn't one. We tried, we definitely tried, but she did not.
Anna Victoria, thank you for sharing all of that. I want to go to your mom now.
I mean, she didn't really even try with her own kid, in my opinion. Brian said he, you know, that's why I think he said like he called her that morning or something to check to make sure she was going to be picking up their son, because a lot of times she would fail to do so.
Dolores, you were married to George for 14 years. I have three beautiful children with him. Two of them are here with us today, Destiny and Anna Victoria. We understand that at one point, Sarah Boone tried to fight you. Tell us about that.
Sarah, you're ballsy. I would not a day in my life would I try to mess with this lady. She looks like she would hit you and just put you on your ass.
Not per se fight me, because we've only, I want to say that we've had one engagement, which was for my children's birthday party that they attended later in the evening. So I really have never had like a confrontation. It was made verbal over the phone. She had threatened me a couple times to come over and that she would dust her doormat for myself and my daughters. But it was basically verbal threats that she would give every time that George would call his children, any chance that he had, that he was able to call his children to speak, and I was present. It was a problem for George. She was very much jealous of me for what reason I'm not aware of, but we never had.
Because you had 14 years with George, and I bet you they were 14 happy years, and she couldn't even make it 4.
Had physical altercations.
Well, and that's a very good thing. Tell us, Dolores, during your marriage to George, was he ever violent with you or any of your kids?
He was never violent with my children. We would have normal husband and wife family spats here and there, but never to the point where police were ever involved, DHS was ever involved. We were never that type of family. I can't relate to Sarah and the abuse that she so-called claims that she's received from George, because I never received abuse like that. I want to say the only thing that I can say about George is that he was a ladies' man.
Gotcha. Okay. And so just to be very clear here, did anything physical ever take place in terms of physical violence that he inflicted on you?
No.
Okay. And thank you for that. I know these are very personal questions, but we really want to get everything out here and get your side of all this, as everyone in the courtroom isn't hearing it. Destiny, we're so happy to have you here. You were a surprise this morning. We knew Anna Victoria was coming on and your mom, and we're so glad to see you too. What would you like to say about your dad, the kind of person that he was? What would you like the world to know about him?
My dad was an amazing person. He was my best friend. Nobody's perfect, but my dad was very loving. Everybody loved him back. He didn't deserve what happened to him. I don't think anybody deserves to die like that. I was 15 when it happened. I ended up being very depressed and going through suicidal thoughts and things of that nature. Yeah, we're just really trying to get my dad justice.
We know you are. We know you are. And Anna Victoria, back to you really quickly. You said that no one has reached out to you. Has the prosecutor's office reached out to your family?
As far as my father's mother, his father, his siblings are concerned, they have been communicated with due to the fact that they do live in Orlando. I live in Philadelphia, but nonetheless, I have communicated with the attorneys. The only thing I would say is I've never been contacted in regards to who my father was. I'm not sure if Sarah Boone deleted the calls or anything like that, but I'm sure those things were able to be, brought back up. But my siblings and I spoke to our father that night, and I do think that our encounter and what took place over the phone is very valuable to the case, as well as what their relationship was like and what Ms. Boone's plans may have been that night. Again, whether they have been premeditated or not, in my opinion, they very much were, due to
what's she saying?
The character of Sarah and all the experiences that we've had with her. But
what did your dad say on the phone?
If we were contacted, things could have been much better.
Yeah, good question, Julie.
So nothing in specific, but we talked on the phone for months at a time, every so often. I would say that I spoke to my father at least 3 times a week, maybe more. And we would stay on the phone as long as he possibly could stay on the phone with me, without Sarah getting agitated or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
I can't really put into words the way she would act.
Yeah. You all got to know a different Sarah Boone.
Just talk all the time. Sure. And my father that day seemed very uneasy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, we are so sorry for your loss, and would love to continue.
Wow. Well, we heard a lot of, wow. Forgot I had these orange flags for when people are sentenced or whenever they're convicted. So I got one for Sarah and I got one for Leilani. I completely forgot about these. I was like, oh, hell, I should put their names on them, like in a black marker. I don't know if I could do that. I probably could. They deserve it, They deserve it. They don't deserve anything. I mean, I wonder how Sarah's going to sleep tonight, and I wonder how Leilani's going to sleep tonight. We'll go ahead and we'll go over to Leilani's case. Actually, I was going to tell you that what was it? It says, if convicted, Sarah will get a minimum of 22.5 years. The prosecution and defense agreed in the morning that the jury would be instructed that it could convict Boone on lesser charges of manslaughter or culpable negligence. And I thought maybe they were going to come back with manslaughter. So when they came back with second degree, I was surprised. I really was. I mean, because they were like giving them other options. Do you know? Like, I don't know. I just thought maybe they were giving them too many options. So I'm going to read through this and then we will listen to Miss Tammy Stokes. And then after we're done with Leilani, we'll move on to Delphi or whatever else, whatever other case you want to be updated in. So it says a jury found a Georgia woman guilty of murdering her toddler son, whose remains were found in a landfill. If you're unfamiliar, Leilani, Leilani learned her fate today. I was going to start off with her tonight. She learned her fate in a Chatham County courthouse she's on trial for the brutal death of her 20-month-old son, Quentin Simon. Jury deliberations started around 3 p.m. on Thursday, and when they didn't have a decision by 5 p.m. that night, Judge Tammy Stokes went ahead and let them leave, and then they resumed this morning. And they had a verdict pretty quick. Yeah, we just went over it, Amy. Yeah, we just stopped covering it. So a jury found a Georgia woman guilty of murdering her toddler son, whose remains were found in a landfill. The jury convicted Leilani Simon on 19 charges, including murder, concealing a death, falsely reporting a crime, and 14 counts of lying to investigators. Didn't give her any slack. On October 5th, 2022, Leilani called the police to report that Quentin Simon was missing. She told a 911 dispatcher that their front door was open and Quentin must have been abducted. For weeks, investigators searched for the boy. His remains were discovered November 18th. Prosecutors argued Leilani killed Quentin on the morning of October 5th by assaulting him with an unknown object before leaving his body in a dumpster outside a trailer park near her home. In the days and weeks after reporting her son's disappearance, Leilani gave a number of interviews to the police and FBI, which her attorneys have fought to keep from being entered into evidence at trial. Leilani's sentencing was not immediately scheduled. The judge indicated she would hear both aggravating and mitigating evidence at a hearing before delivering the sentence, just like in Sarah Boone's trial. But we'll listen to this here, and this is them reading the verdict.
Reflect that counsel for both parties are present. Ms. Simon is present with her counsel.
Now, right here, I wonder what she's thinking. Like, do these people actually think I have a chance of walking out of here? Like I have a chance of walking out of here with nothing. I mean, you've got 19 charges on you. I don't know what the best you could hope for would be. And then where the hell is everybody? Where is everybody? You got the Schrader girl over here, the one that's been following the case since the beginning. But you know who we don't have? Justin Farrell, Bullhorn Betty, Dolly, Molly Golightly. Any of the people that were there making noise, wreaking havoc, none of them are here. None of them are here to see the sentencing. There's enough room in the courtroom, so there's enough room.
I have received a note, and it says we have reached a verdict. And Mr. Bryant, if you would mark this as a court's exhibit as well. I believe we're up to 7.
Yes.
Okay. And
I bet you she's like, hell yeah, because it's Friday.
If the parties wish to see this note, you're welcome. Okay, then I'll hand this back down, Miss Blake. Okay. So, and you may, if you would, please call in the jury. Thank you.
Frenchie, what do you mean? He's been all over the United States. That's all they've been doing is traveling. Him and his girlfriend. I thought they had been. She looks so different. Would you want to put your faith in this guy? I mean,
entering.
welcome in, everybody. If you're just now joining us, we are going over the verdict in the Leilani Simon trial. We just finished listening to the verdict in the Sarah Boone trial. I came on early because they had a verdict. We had a verdict. We have verdicts all over the place today. I don't know how long they sit.
Jury room is clear, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Smith.
She looks worried.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you may have a seat. Thank you very much. And I understand that you have received a verdict. I just want to say, first of all, to those who are in the audience, there has been a jury verdict reached. To everyone in attendance, and many of you have been here for quite some time, I will ask that there not be any emotional reactions and no disruptive outbursts. So at this point, I am going to ask the foreperson to please stand. Juror 5. And have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
Was it unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Has a verdict been filed in or filled in and signed and dated by you?
Yes, it has.
And if you would please hand the verdict to Deputy Solomon. Thank you, Deputy Solomon, for handing that up. I'm going to ask counsel to approach and take a look at the verdict form.
I mean, this is crazy. She's wearing green because she's trying to be lucky, I guess. But she's not, I mean, I really didn't think we were going to see this day. 2 years. Just over 2 years.
As to the verdict, it reads as follows. We, the jury, find as follows: malice murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 4, concealing the death of another. We find the defendant guilty. Count 5, false report of a crime. We find the defendant guilty. Count 6, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 7, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 8, making a false statement. We find the defendant guilty. Count 9, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 10, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty.
You're a liar.
Count 11, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 12, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 13, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 14, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 15, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 16, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 17, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. Count 18, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty. And count 19, making a false statement, we find the defendant guilty.
Like she couldn't get out of one of them making a false statements. Like her lawyers couldn't at least get her out of those. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got 19 counts, girl.
Okay. And is there anything further from the state? From the defense? Certainly. So, members of the jury, this is something that very often happens. You will be asked questions by the clerk, 3 questions in particular, I believe, and simply answer the questions. Madam Clerk.
Juror number 1, was this your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 2. Juror number 2. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 3. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 4. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 5. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 6.
She's crying because she knows all of these people on that jury are saying, you did this. You did this. She's finally having people telling her, you did this, other than just a couple detectives, you know?
That's your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 7. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 8. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 9. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 10. Was that your verdict then?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 11.
Yes.
Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
Juror number 12. Was that your verdict then?
Yes.
Is this your verdict now?
Yes.
She's like 24, 25.
Anything further at this time with the juries?
No, Your Honor.
With the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service, for your time, for your energy. This has been an important more than 2 weeks now that you've spent with the court, and your time and attention is deeply appreciated. I am going to release you. If anyone wants to speak with you about your deliberations and you want to, you may do so now. You're being released from the instructions. You're not under any obligation to speak with anyone about your experience, but you may do so if you choose to. I am ordering that there be no contact with the jurors in the courthouse or on the courthouse property. But I do release you at this point. Thank you. You're free to go.
Jurors exiting.
Where were these tears when she did all those, you know, the interviews, or when she was on Tybee or Tylee or whatever island, drinking, taking back shots with her mama? Where were those tears then? Only thing she has to look forward to is that 1 hour of rec a week and the honey buns that she can get in commissary. That's if someone sends her money. I wonder when her other children get old enough, if they'll want to visit her and be like, why?
All clear, Judge.
All right, everyone may please have a seat.
Her mom's not even there.
Sentencing will not occur at this time. It's going to be scheduled for another date. That date will be determined. And of course, if there's anything to be presented in aggravation or mitigation, I'll hear it at that time. All right. Is there anything further at this point from the state?
No, Your Honor.
From the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you as well for your service from the state as well as from the defense. And with that, we are adjourned.
They let her not have any handcuffs on. Wow. Rest in peace, Quentin. Yeah. She's not going to be treated real well in there now. Attorney leaves. You're exactly right. Like, look at that face. That's the face of defeat. That's the face of, I'm not getting out of here. Because I feel like I really do. I feel like even if I was in this position, I feel like in my brain, I would somehow be like, I'm getting out. I'm getting out. I'm getting out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would think that. I would be like, I'm getting out. I'm getting out. But no way they'll hold me. And then all of a sudden, they're holding people accountable. And I'm loving it. Right? Allegedly, Lisa, two awesome verdicts today. I mean, if we would have had a verdict in the Delphi case, I probably would fall out of my chair. Like, there's just so much. But I did find this. Well, we're going to move over to actually that case. Mia Grace. She's breathing heavy. Sometimes she snores. Sometimes she just is weird. Did I tell you guys? Break it up with some more, like good news. I should try to find the picture of this little puppy. There's a Weimaraner puppy in the neighborhood. I think I did tell you guys last night. I'm so excited about it. I want to see it. I want to see it so bad. I saw it once, but I was in the car. I want to see it like in person. Today was a good day for justice. It's a really good day today for justice. Wow. I mean, we've been waiting on these cases for a while. Leilani, 2 years. Sarah Boone, almost 5 years. Now we're moving on to Delphi case here. This is 7 years. 17, 18. Yeah, 7 years. I was just making sure there wasn't more than that. And Delphi won't be so simple now. Delphi keeps, I feel like a fish without water, flipping and flopping. Because one minute, like I've always been in the belief that he did this. But then I hear things and then I'm not sure. But then I hear the other things and then it makes me feel like a little more reassured. So I wanted to show you guys this because I thought I knew what an unspent bullet was, but I don't think I did. They go over like understanding what the unspent bullet means that was found in between Abby and Libby. So I wanted to share this with you guys because I didn't know if you guys needed a little help understanding that as well. And there's a guy that goes on the show and he comes on and he shows the bullet, shows the different chambers of the bullet and explains a lot of it. And I've shot guns plenty of times. And I've sold guns and I've sold ammunition when I worked at a sporting goods store. And I didn't even know some of this stuff. I was like, dang, your girl needs to learn. So it'll be like a little learning exercise. Oh, no, the puppy wasn't. It was with its owner. But it was jumping up and down like it was all puppy-like. And its little big floppy ears were just like flopping. And it made me want to get another Weimaraner. And Vince was like, you don't want another one of them. No, you don't. And I'm like, you're right. Our dog's crazy as is. But it was so cute. It was so cute. Long day, long few weeks. Yes. That's what we need to know, if they can prove he did it.
Day 5.
Now, he is saying that no one had his gun, so how would they have racked a bullet through it to create markings that only his gun could produce, Now that's the kind of stuff I'm like, okay, and now that's like a direct evidence. I like direct evidence.
The Delphi murders trial gets underway now in less than 20 minutes. One of the top questions I'm getting surrounds what people are calling the magic bullet. People are calling unspent bullet. It is one of the focuses of this case. The prosecutors claim that a bullet investigators found between murder victims Abby Williams and Libby German, they say they know that it came from a gun owned by the suspect, Richard Allen. How would they know that? Is there science behind it? Well, Attorney Guy Relford joins us live this morning to answer some questions about the science, about that allegation. First, so good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Let's talk about first, for the first time yesterday, I think in court, we were finally hearing them refer to this as a cartridge. But throughout the last several years, even in months, we kept hearing unspent bullet.
Right.
A lot of people were criticizing me for saying, I'm only using what police and prosecutors are saying. First of all, is it a cartridge that you believe was on scene or an unspent bullet? What is it?
Yeah, the term unspent bullet is a very inaccurate term, but it's the one everyone's been using since it was discovered allegedly between the bodies of the girls. And if you walked into a gun store and said, I need to buy some bullets, they would know what you were talking about, but you're actually referring to the full cartridge. And I actually brought one here that's here on the table in front of us. That's a full cartridge, which actually has 4 components. It has a shell casing, usually made out of brass, in this case, nickel-plated brass. And then the bullet is actually
they actually match the bullet up to his gun. Yeah.
Projectile here that's coated in a copper alloy. But that's the bullet. That's the projectile that travels downrange and hits your target or whatever it is that you're shooting at. And then there's gunpowder inside the casing. And lastly, there's a primer, which is just a cup of chemical that ignites on impact, and that's what makes the gun fire. But the bullet technically is just the projectile. In this case, the copper-coated projectile at the very top of the cartridge. The whole thing with all 4 components is a cartridge.
We're hearing that this came from, according to the prosecutors, one came out of a gun that belonged to Richard Allen. First of all, yesterday we heard for the first time that there was a sound from that 45 seconds of Libby German that sound like some kind of mechanical sound. Some people are saying that was probably a gun or something being cocked. What ways can a bullet come out of a gun? And then we're going to get to the part about how markings would be on it. Without it being fired, how would a bullet fall out of a gun?
Really, there's one way. And if we're talking about a semi-automatic firearm and a handgun, there's one way that really the cartridge can be removed from the chamber of the gun and ejected. And that's from operating the action of the gun, typically what we call racking the slide.
And that's the gun that they're saying that he had. It was the Sig Sauer P226 model. And according to Richard Allen, he said that nobody's ever had his gun. No one's ever, been in possession of it to where, they went hunting with it or they've done anything with it. He's always had it. So that's, if he always has it, it doesn't look good.
The slide is the movable part on top of the frame of the gun. You pull that back and there's something called an extractor. It's a little claw that hooks on to the rear edge. That's why it's shaped like this. The extractor
come out wide. You can see him.
Is a little claw that hooks onto this edge, and it pulls the round out of the chamber of the gun. And then there's a separate component called an ejector. This is the extractor that pulls it out. Then an ejector, a lot of times, is just a face or a stop. And when the case or the entire cartridge hits that, it tosses it out the ejection port. So that's how you get it out of the gun, is you operate the action of the gun, or you fire the gun, and then the bullet goes downrange and the casing is ejected.
So in this case, we know that didn't happen because it was all still together. So in about a minute left or less, what is the science behind being able to tell how you match that to whose gun?
It's really the same technology that's been around for a long time. It's called tool mark identification or tool mark technology. And what that is it's simply looking at the unique markings that a piece of metal, a harder metal like the steel of an extractor or an ejector would make when it comes in contact with the soft brass casing of a round of ammunition or an empty shell casing if the gun was fired. So those harder pieces of metal hit the soft metal here on the casing, those leave a mark. And the technology says you can uniquely identify those, even as unique as fingerprints. There's a debate as to whether that's fully reliable science or not.
What do you think as an expert and as an attorney? Would you use the science or not use the science?
Well, it depends on whether the technology was correctly applied. That's really is. It's garbage in, garbage out. If you went through the appropriate number of iterations, the appropriate number of comparisons, you use the requisite level of magnification in your analysis. So the technology generally, I think you could say, is accepted within the scientific community of forensics, but was it applied correctly? That's where the rubber hits the road.
That's something that we're going to be hearing about in the days to come. Might have to have you come back to talk about what you think. Guy, thank you for coming and explaining again the science behind that allegation. Fox59.com at 9 o'clock, jurors will be headed back in the courtroom, and so we're all team.
Okay, so I thought maybe that might help a little bit of us. Hey, Ludwig, that doesn't really know a whole lot about bullets and unspent bullets. To me, it just seems like it was filtered through the cartridge, like it was like cocked back but not fired. Now, I don't know how that would pop out the side though, but I'm sure someone in the chat would be able to help me with that question, because you know, these are questions I have. I have a lot of questions about this case. Now, it's really hard to cover a case or to even be in just the public in the know of a case if there's no cameras allowed in there. Now, with this case, and I think in Indiana alone, like they don't do cameras, but they were going to do cameras for this case, and they were going to allow them. And then Judge Gall said, no cameras. So we have to rely on people that are inside the courtroom and really whoever can tell the better of the stories, because we've got defense attorneys in there. We've got prosecutors. We've got, you know, and all these people have like podcasts, so they all have their opinion, and it's going to be their opinion is going to be based more though a certain way just because of their background. And that's how I feel. That's how I feel. It's just my opinion. But this long crime did 7 gruesome moments in disturbing Delphi murders trial, and this just came out yesterday. So I figured we would watch this. It would get us a little bit more caught up with what's going on. We'll talk through this, and I'll look at some more stuff to see what's if there's anything, you know, newer that's come out after this. And thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it so much. If you guys don't mind taking a second, hit the like button if you guys don't mind. I know it's like a robot. People ask me to do that. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, we'd love to have you. We do talk true crime every day here.
And Abby Williams autopsies, and they see the video of the bridge guy that the prosecution says is Richard Allen. I talk with someone who's been in the courtroom in Delphi about the latest testimony in the trial. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Jurors in Richard Allen's murder trial and Libby German and Abby Williams' families have seen some really, really awful things this week. The week started with crime scene photos that showed Libby and Abby after their bodies were found on Valentine's Day in 2017. Crime scene investigators were grilled about what they did and what they didn't do. Lauren Mathias with the Hidden True Crime YouTube channel will be here soon to tell us all about what happened. Jurors also heard testimony about Libby German's cell phone. She and Abby were crossing the Monon High Bridge that February 13th in 2017. Libby had actually posted a photo of Abby on Snapchat around 2:05 p.m. crossing the bridge. That photo circulated on social media years ago. The photo showed Abby wearing a gray sweatshirt and red top. When Abby's body was found, she was actually wearing Libby's clothes. Libby also recorded a video of Bridge Guy at 2:13 p.m. Here's the enhanced video released by the FBI. Now, the video that the jurors saw was actually the original video, and it was longer than what I just showed you and wasn't the loop you just watched. The original video is 43 seconds long, and one of the girls can be heard saying something to the effect of, "There's no path down here. We've got to go down here." One reporter tweeted that Abby Williams' mother confirmed that the voice was her daughter's. Fox 59 reported that Libby's phone.
It was Abby that said that? I thought it was Libby, but let me listen. Wow.
"We've got to go down here." One reporter tweeted that Abby Williams' mother confirmed that the voice was her daughter's. Fox 59 reported that Libby's phone showed a change in longitude, altitude, and elevation at 2:31 p.m., which would match with the girls being led down a hill and possibly across Deer Creek. A minute later, the phone was no longer moving and didn't move again or ping again, according to a witness's testimony, which casts doubt on a defense theory that the girls were abducted and brought back to the area and killed later. The jury also heard from several witnesses who saw Bridge Guy, and they heard from the pathologist who conducted the autopsies on Abby and Libby. Both girls' throats had been cut. The stories I cover each day here on Crime Fix show you just how scary the world can be. And one of the scariest things that can happen is if you ever get hurt. But I want you to know if you're...
We don't need to hear you talking about all that. Oh, look at that.
Host of the Hidden True Crime YouTube channel, and she's been attending the trial in Delphi each day. Lauren, take me into the courtroom, first of all, for the very latest. I know this has to be just excruciating for the family of Libby German and Abby Williams.
It must be excruciating. I actually looked over at them several times to see, and there have been times where Libby's mother's hands are covering her face and her daughters are consoling her, rubbing her back. We are seeing crime scene photos, and today we saw autopsy photos. We heard how the girls died. We heard more about their wounds. We saw the wounds. It was very traumatic today in court.
The pathologist, it's my understanding, testified that both girls died from deep slash wounds to their throats. It's just horrific. We know that Libby was found naked and there were sticks over her body, and that Abby was wearing Libby's clothes, which I still don't quite understand. I don't know if the state will ever be able to explain that fact, but there was some discussion about whether or not there was a sexual assault.
Do you think that he attempted to redress them, right? Say he was attempting to redress them, and he's trying to put Abby's clothes on Abby, right? And Abby's clothes are soaking wet. So Abby's clothes don't go back on her they're not going to go back on easy at all. They're just not. So what if that's why he sees, maybe that's why he puts Libby's pants on her? I don't know. Like, I don't know why they're naked in the first place. I'm just trying to figure out how they were redressed. But then maybe he redresses Abby in Libby's clothes because they are bigger. So they're going to fit her because, she's a smaller girl. Even when wet, they would probably fit her easier than her own clothes going on. And then maybe that's when he tosses the sticks, because they say it looks like runes or odinistic, ruins and stuff like that. What if he just tossed the sticks and just tossed them on Libby to cover her so that she wasn't like naked? You know what I mean? Like being exposed. I don't know. I'm just trying to think here, but you let me know.
Of Abby. So can you tell us a little bit about that test?
Oh, I think he undressed them for sure because of the pants being outside, like inside out. I do believe that.
Testimony of both girls, obviously.
Yes, the sexual assault kits that were done on both girls were discussed today, and it was told by the pathologist that there were no visible traumatic injuries that would show sexual assault, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't sexual assault. There were just no visible injuries. And I think it's important that he presented it that way. While there were no visible injuries or evidence that shows a sexual assault, that doesn't mean there wasn't sexual assault. And I just want to point out, the fact that Libby was found nude. I mean, that in itself, a little girl, undressing I can't imagine that that isn't sexual assault.
It just had to be the most terrifying time of these poor girls' lives. And then Abby, you know, you have to think at some point, because we know there was that photo of her that's been circulating on social media for years, plus the video showing her with the clothes that she left the house in, and then she's wearing, for some reason, Libby's clothing. We don't know if they believe the killer then put her in those clothes or what. We don't know. But talk to me a little bit about what happened when they showed the video of Bridge Guy, because that happened in the last day or two, where the jurors were presented with that. We've seen the enhanced video over the years, but we've never seen that full video.
Right. The full video, turns out, was 43 seconds long. We watched it a few times in the courtroom. At first, the first time you see it, you can't necessarily, unless you have really good eyesight, you maybe even miss Bridge Guy in the background behind Abby. You have Libby filming, and you have Abby sort of out on the bridge, and you do see somebody in the background, but the cell phone is kind of going up and down. And I think that maybe this is my perception, that maybe she was sort of trying to pretend that she wasn't necessarily filming, because then as Abby came across the bridge, the phone started to point at some gravel, and that is actually where you hear down the hill very faintly. And
so it's like he got up on them pretty quickly.
And you don't see Abby's face, you see the gravel, you see her pants, you see quite a shaky video, and you hear this voice, what sounds like a little girl. I wrote in my notes, it sounds so young, where she says, "There's no path." As in, it's so ominous. It's like they realize they're at this dead end, and that they're on this other side of a railroad bridge. Nobody else is around, and a man is stating to them down the hill, and Abby, or you know, stating there's nowhere to go, essentially, but saying there's no path. It's such a heartbreaking thing to hear.
Because these girls, I mean, they're complying with an order from an adult. And the state's theory is that there was a firearm present to get them to comply. So you have to imagine they're just terrified. I mean, I just can't even imagine.
I can't imagine either. And the more we learn in court, the more brutal this crime becomes. It's really unfathomable. And right, to just, I cannot imagine what those two girls went through in their last hour.
It's just awful. There have been a number of witnesses who testified about seeing Bridge Guy. And something that's been pointed out is that none of these witnesses have been asked, was that Richard Allen? And maybe that's because that's a question for the jury to answer. But a number of witnesses described seeing Bridge Guy. One that testified said that she saw Bridge Guy, I guess, on a road, and his legs, I guess, appeared bloody and muddy. So tell us a little bit about that testimony. It was a woman named Sarah Carbaugh, I believe.
Yes, we heard from Sarah this morning in court, and Sarah testified, and she testified with certainty to the point that she says that she was driving. It was around 4 p.m. because there is surveillance camera capturing her driving the directions, she says, and it was just before 4 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. And she frequented the Monon High Bridge Trail daily or often. She lived nearby. She would walk her dog there. And she says that on the side of the road, she saw a man who was muddy and bloody. She repeated that it was certain that is what she saw, that he had mud, especially at the top. And then he was bloody lower down on his pants, that there was blood. And she then says that after she saw him, she learned about the two missing girls. When she learned that they were then found deceased, and then she learned about Bridge Guy and saw the photo, she thought that was absolutely him. And then that is when she decided to share this with police. Now, defense, the cross-exam was interesting, and they claimed that she's allegedly changed her testimony over the years, that she originally just said muddy, muddy, muddy. And then the next interview, she said muddy. And then the next interview, she then stated bloody, but not muddy. She was fairly defiant with cross-exam, saying that her testimony has never changed, that she has always said muddy and bloody, and that if there is some interview that's missing, she actually alleged there might be missing video of a third interview. It was quite an interesting moment in court that that's not on her and that's not her issue, but that she had always said that she saw a man who was muddy and bloody.
Yeah, it sounded like she was very defensive on cross-examination and even brought up the missing videos that we've heard about, the defense saying that there was a DVR that was recorded over for some reason because of the settings on it. The crime scene investigators have really been grilled in this case because the defense is alleging that the investigation was botched. There's been discussion about how many pictures were taken of the bullet found at the scene. That's going to be a major point of contention. The state says it was cycled through Richard Allen's gun. The defense is questioning that assertion. So they really were grilled by the defense team.
They really were. And I actually think that the defense, in my opinion, from what I saw, I think they won some points as these crime scene investigators were grilled. They brought up the fact that the crime scene investigators did not bring with them the sticks, which, by the way, when I heard sticks originally, I was thinking like little sticks, little twigs. These are branches, like almost like giant tree branches. They were large twigs. I mean, they weren't twigs, they were sticks. And so picture quite large sticks, limbs almost. And they were on top of the girls, both of them, in different places, different placement. And they said that they left them, and that the crime scene investigators said they didn't feel like they could take them to test because they were mossy and crumbly and wouldn't necessarily do well in trying to like get DNA or evidence, I guess, off of these sticks. Well, then we learned that 2 days later they were told to go back and get the sticks, and that they actually were supposed to collect them. And clearly, because we have not heard yet of any DNA being found at the scene, the question was posed, well, couldn't the person who did this crime, couldn't they have touched these sticks? Was it not important to test them? And it was an interesting moment, and it did create a lot of questions about how the crime scene was investigated. And I do think that for the defense, there were some wins there.
How is the jury seeming to react to that? Because I had read some tweets, late last weekend where it sounded like the jurors were kind of leaning in and really seemed to be liking the style of the prosecution. Do they seem to be engaged in what the defense is doing when they ask these questions?
They are actually a very engaged jury. I think they're actually really listening to the defense. They're always taking notes. They're always listening. And one thing that's interesting about this trial is this is a trial where the jury and the jurors are allowed to ask questions at the end of every witness. After cross-exam and redirect, they are able to submit their questions. And so you get an idea of what they're really thinking and what they're really wondering about. I have to be honest, it seems as if some of the jurors, with the questions they're asking, knew about this crime and perhaps some details that have, sometimes I feel like some of the jurors are jumping ahead with their questions, which make me suspicious that they know quite a bit about this crime. They're certainly listening. And there are other times where, they're asking questions like, what was the cell phone carrier? And I think a lot of the questions they're asking really have to do with the defense cross. Like today in court, after the last testimony, it was cell phone data that was extracted. They asked so many questions about a missing photo that was found in the Snapchat cache that was allegedly posted by Libby on her Snapchat.
So it was in the cache.
So that would be just minutes before 2:13 when the bridge guy video was taken. And the investigators were not able to find this Snapchat photo on Libby's phone. And so there were a lot of questions this afternoon about where this photo is. And to me, it seems as if they have the same questions the defense has, because the defense is really pushing home, like, Could Libby have been using was there another device around? Did she post another device? How could you not have this photo? And the jurors had the same questions.
That's very interesting, because minutes, maybe even seconds, really matter in this case. I want to go back to kind of the beginning of the week when the crime scene photos were shown. I kind of read that was very difficult, as I'm sure it was. This whole thing is difficult for the family to see these crime scene photos. I just can't imagine them sitting there. And I was reading too that some of the jurors had a really hard time, even some of the male jurors, and that Libby's eyes appeared to be blacked out. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there were actually audible gasps in the courtroom when they would switch to different photographs at the crime scene because they were graphic. And yes, they were censored in that they covered the victim's eyes sometimes when they did close-ups of their faces and their injuries. And then they censored parts of Libby's nude body. But that was it. And everything else was quite graphic, and it was quite shocking, and it was quite traumatic. And yes, I looked over at Libby's mother was in the courtroom, and she had her face in her hands while her daughter rubbed her back. At one point, I looked over to Kathy Allen, who's been there every day, along with, that's Richard Allen's wife, along with Richard Allen's mother. And Kathy Allen seemed quite upset. Take that for what it is. I imagine seeing crime scenes of little girls is going to be upsetting to most people. Richard Allen watched the screen. I will never forget that day. Or what I saw. You can't forget that. And I'll just say it was.
Well, what was Richard Allen doing? She just said he's just sitting there watching it. I want to know, like, was he crying? Was he happy? Was he doing anything? Because I mean, seeing crime scenes with dead little girls, I'm sorry, that's going to traumatize somebody, no matter who you are. And if I was a defendant and I was not guilty and I saw those pictures, I would probably be feeling some type of way. I don't know. That's just me.
It was brutal. Again, I can't imagine what those girls went through. I'll have to say this, and it goes along with what we saw today in the autopsy. It seemed as if, to me, Libby certainly had more injuries and was hurt. And I don't know what that means. I'm not a profiler, right? But targeted somehow. I don't know. I'm not even implying that the person knew her. I don't know. But certainly targeted on this day or in this moment, that she had more injuries than Abby had. And today at the autopsy, that was shown to be true.
And she was naked.
She had multiple wounds on her neck, while Abby just had one. She had about 4 to 5, and they explained that she had second passes, meaning the instrument that was used to murder these girls was so 4 to 5 wounds, but there were second passes with the weapon on Libby, not on Abby, just on Libby. And the crime scene showed just how much bloodier and terrible it was with Libby. And we also learned, Libby had blood on both of her hands at the crime scene, and people were wondering about that. And they explained today that it was likely that Libby held her own neck, that she tried to put pressure on her neck to hold it. And that is why both of her hands were bloody. So it is a day I won't forget. And I can't imagine being family in that courtroom. They were really brave, and they clearly want to make sure to bear witness to what happened to these innocent little girls, being in that courtroom.
And we haven't gotten yet to these statements that the prosecution claims that are incriminating that they say Richard Allen made while he was in custody. We believe that'll come at some later date. There is this letter, though. Have you seen the letter that he allegedly wrote while in prison, or in jail, I should say, while he was in prison, being held in a prison, where he said that he wanted to officially confess and hoped he could apologize to the families or something to that effect? Have you been able to see a copy of that letter?
I saw a copy of the recreation that was posted, and I did see that, and I'm grateful for the reporters that went to go view that and make the recreation. I have not seen the actual letter, but I did see that, and I think it's shows that there's a lot more to come in this trial. At this point, you sort of mentioned this, Anjanette, but they've hardly really mentioned Richard Allen's name. In fact, the defense has mentioned Richard Allen's name more than the prosecution has at this point. So essentially, they seem to still be setting the stage. And so to see a copy of that letter and to know that they really haven't even started to say that, to assert that Richard Allen is bridge guy yet, I assume there's a lot more to come.
They may be setting the stage, and it may be a tactic. Lauren Matthias, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Anjanette.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
Okay. So hopefully it doesn't go on another thing. I figured that would be pretty give us an in-depth kind of look on what they were talking about today inside the trial and the last few days. I did find that's not what I wanted to look at, was it? Yeah, it is. Okay. I'm like, what is this? It's basically going to give us it says Delphi murders trial. A volunteer assisting police helped identify the man charged with killing 2 teens. It's supposed to give us like the first week of the trial, but we'll see what it says here. 5 years before he was charged with killing 2 middle school students near an Indiana trail, Richard Allen reached out to authorities about the double murder. He'd been in the area the day the girls were killed, he told investigators at the time. That information contained in a lead sheet maintained by law enforcement was inadvertently marked clear, and it wasn't until 2022 when a volunteer clerk tasked with helping organize thousands of tips in the investigation discovered it and set into motion the events that led to Allen's arrest. The revelation emerged in a Carroll County courtroom this week where law enforcement officers, witnesses, and others detailed their involvement in the case during the first full week of testimony about the February 13th, 2017 killings of Liberty German, 14, and Abigail Williams, 13. Lawyers for Allen, a 52-year-old former CVS employee, have said he is truly innocent. In court filings, Allen's legal team has said the killings could have been a part of a ritual sacrifice, and at trial, they've challenged the prosecution's timeline as well as accounts from witnesses that, in one instance, placed a man covered in mud and blood near the area where the teens' bodies were found. At trial Thursday, defense attorney Andrew Baldwin asked the clerk, Kathy Shank, if his client was trying to assist the investigation. The prosecution objected, calling the question speculation, and the judge sustained. The investigator who spoke with Allen in 2017 was Dan Doolin, then a conservation officer with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. He testified Thursday that he helped local authorities follow up on leads related to the killings. On February 16, 2017, 3 days after the homicide, Dolan said that he picked up the lead sheet with Allen's name and phone number. The officer asked to meet Allen at his home, but he declined, Dolan said, and requested that they meet at a grocery store parking lot instead. During the unrecorded conversation that followed, Dolan testified Allen told him he parked at a farm brewer a lot and walked towards an abandoned rail bridge. It's now part of the Delphi Historic Trails Network where the teens had planned on spending their day off from school. Allen was there between 1:30 and 3:30. Dolan recalled him saying, and he passed 3 girls along the way. Roughly 10 minutes, Dolan said the conversation was over. He typed up his notes and submitted the file to investigators. 5 years later, Shank, a retired receptionist for the Department of Children's Services who volunteered with the investigation, was sorting through thousands of leads when she came across a file box containing a tip with the name Richard Allen Whiteman. The tip incorrectly identified Allen's last name, Shank testified, and it was it was marked cleared. But in September 2022, Shank flagged it to a detective who testified that investigators had been trying to find a man who witnesses reported seeing the day on the trail. The detective Tony Liggett, now Carroll County Sheriff, said he believed the man was someone who'd become known to investigators as the bridge guy. The phrase referred to a mysterious Snapchat video found on Abigail's phone. Not on Abigail, Libby's phone. Okay, well, that's wrong. Libby's phone that showed a white man wearing jeans and a dark colored jacket walking on the bridge. In a statement released after the killings that included a brief clip of the video, authorities described the unidentified man as a suspect in the teen's homicide. One of the witnesses, Riley Voorhees, testified Tuesday that she said hello to a man who was overdressed for the weather with a hat, a mask, and dark clothes. He didn't respond when she waved, said Voorhees, then a 16-year-old high school student who was friends with the victims, and he did not seem like a happy person. Once she saw the Snapchat image, Voorhees testified she said she realized that was the same man she waved to. A defense lawyer for Allen, Jennifer Auger, noted that Voorhees' initial description to police of the man on the trail, a man in his 20s or 30s with curly hair and a square jaw, was different than the one she provided in court. Asked if the bridge guy image could have influenced her memory, Voorhees responded, possibly. Liggett testified that he believed the witnesses who described seeing Allen on the 13th of February were credible, and he said the information Allen provided to authorities days later was marked as cleared when it shouldn't have been. Allen got lost in the cracks, he said. After Shanks provided Liggett with the lead sheet, investigators returned to Allen and interviewed him again. Allen provided a similar account according to former Delphi Police Chief Steve Mullen, who conducted the interview, though Allen said he'd arrive at the trail at noon and left by 1:30 p.m. When Mullen showed Allen a photo of the bridge guy, a former chief testified Allen responded, if the picture was taken with the girl's camera, there was no way it could be him, Mullen testified. Authorities then served a search warrant on Allen's home and found a .40 caliber Sig Sauer handgun that prosecutors have said matches a bullet found near the girls' bodies. In his testimony, Liggett said it was discovered that the bullet, along with witness accounts, that prompted Allen's arrest. Ballistics experts testified Friday about how they matched the bullet to Allen's handgun. So they said it was a match to Allen's handgun, Richard Allen's handgun. Now, that's pretty damning, I would say. But we'll have to see. We're just going to have to see. I have to see what goes on with the trial. They said it's going to take up to a month. I believe that. And let's see if there's anything that is on here. So. I was looking on Twitter, but it looks like we've really kind of covered it all. I don't think, I'm trying to see. Is there anything else you guys wanted me to go over? Oh, yeah, this is what I was talking about, actually, right here. I think this is right. This is personally when I think that for Sarah Boone, I think that every juror knew she was guilty and they felt it. Like they felt it in this presentation. Watch this.
The testimony from the defendant is George Torres' head is here. You can stand if you need. You've been sitting a long time too. His head is here. His butt.
Did you hear them all stand up? They were wanting to see.
It's kind of down here. His feet are here, and his hands and his knees are up here. He's in the fetal position, if we remember right.
It's so small.
The
I'm still
hematoma
going
on
to
his
do it.
head
Still going to do that.
is on the left side.
Experiment.
The bruises, the deep bruises on his back are on his left side. That's, you hear that? That's solid. You don't have to accept that she put those marks on him while he was in there. The evidence doesn't support it. You can conclude she used this bat when he was outside the suitcase. You don't have to believe her when she said they were playing hide and seek. You don't have to believe her because she doesn't know the rules. She came downstairs, saw what she had done, and had all the opportunity in the world to clean up whatever mess may have been at the bottom of the stairs. But ladies and gentlemen, physics doesn't lie.
Yeah, they said she done threw him down the stairs. Now, did they ever comment? Let me know. Did they ever comment about the shoes? I'll write this prosecutor if I have to. Does anyone know? Did anyone hear that watch like every bit of this trial? Did they ever say anything about George's shoes being thrown over by the suitcase? Because it would have been dramatic if he would have taken the shoes and threw them over by the suitcase too, like she did. I know she did. Because they were over by the couch. And then they were moved. Now, I may only have one eye, but I saw that. I definitely saw that. Wow, that was powerful stuff. That was powerful. But I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. I really do. Just trying to see if there's anything, It's a good day when, you get a couple bad people off of the, they weren't on the streets, but, getting them into their nice cells. We like to get them, into prisons. We don't want to keep them into jails. Sarah's been in jail for 5 years almost. She's going to get a rude awakening. She's going to get a rude awakening. Can't start 11-hour stream. No, I can't do 11 hours. I did an hour and 40. We came on a little early today. But I don't think I'll be on tomorrow during the day. We're supposed to go to a pumpkin patch. I should have brought my dress in here to show you, but I'll take pictures. And I'll figure out how to get the pictures from the wedding off of there too. So you guys can see pictures of us from the wedding. We didn't take a picture together at the wedding. I don't think I have a picture of Vincent at all. So bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. But I have pictures of me. He took them. I mean, I love him, but he gets me in the worst light. I mean, like he takes the worst pictures of me. And I know it can't be me all the time, But thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Menendez brothers. I haven't got into that one. I know it happened like back, in the 80s when it happened, but I haven't really been listening to what it's been going on, recently. Yeah. Deborah, you're right. So, because they're considering it second degree, which I don't want. I mean, she premeditated it, in my opinion. She premeditated it. But we got 2 people off the streets tonight that are going to be going to bed knowing that they're going to be going to prison for the rest of their life. So that's always a good day for us. But now we've got even more trials. We'll have more trials coming and we'll have more cases. True crime never stops. It may get slow for a minute, but it never stops. Something big is about to be hitting off soon. I can tell. It's about that time. It literally is. I feel like every time between October and November, we have like a big case. Ever since I've come on the platform anyway. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it so much. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. If I don't, have a good Saturday. It's Saturday tomorrow. Have a good night. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day tomorrow. Bye.